Ooh, it's getting caught in the curls today. Uh-oh. There we go. I have to be so delicate with this because my curls. We don't want to get these little things like stuck in there and then they cause like breakage and stuff. So I don't want them to get them caught in there in any way. So let's check this really fast. Okay, looks like it's going good. We got some sound. Lights, camera, action. Let's start the show. Here's a little bit of web advice for me to help your love story unfold. Welcome back to your wedding series. We are live here today and we are on YouTube. So any of you that want to chat along, you're more than welcome to. This is going to be yet another spicy one. You guys hear me say that a lot. I do like spicy food. This is another spicy one that we're talking about. It may be an unpopular opinion. Well, welcome back to your wedding series. We are in season 2, episode 17. This is episode 17. Some of you may be watching this by video and some of you may be listening to this podcast. So I try not to talk too loud in your ears just in case you're only listening to this by like those headphones or earbud things or all that other stuff. So welcome back, you guys, and this is going to be a very spicy topic that is talking about who pays for this. Now, as you know, we already have a budget binder, but today we're breaking down who pays for which wedding items that show up, and this is going to be parents edition. We're talking about the parents on the bride side and the parents on the groom side, and then we'll talk about why it seems so one-sided on the bride side, because you're going to see there's a lot that the parents of the bride pay for in comparison to what's being paid for traditionally by the groom's parents. So remember, all of this is just going to be talking about traditionally. We're talking about a time, depending on when you're watching this may feel like, wow, that was a million years ago. But if you're watching this, you can see if it's got like years on it or whatever by the time you're watching this, or if it's just days. It's not that bad to think about like traditionally that this could have happened, that things could have gone this way, that there was a time in wedding history, the history of weddings, that things were different. Things were just done differently. So we're going to talk about traditionally who pays for it. And then, of course, things are different typically now. Things are a lot different. So we're going to break down traditionally who pays for this, and specifically we're going to look at the parents edition. So the next 5 days, including today, is going to be a breakdown of each and every main group, things that are also come into play when it comes to the money talk. You could also have them come into play, but we're going to talk about our main like key players when it comes to all of this. And that's where we're going to look at the parents for today. We're going to look at the bride, then the groom. We're also going to be looking at the bridal party, okay? The bridal party. So in today's episode, we're just going to be focusing on the parents for episode 17. Now, typically, traditionally, the parents of the bride will pay for the engagement party. So the engagement party itself, as soon as you get engaged, everyone's excited. You guys know I did an episode about the engagement party already, and we broke down who paid for that and some of, the timing on that. And so the parents of the bride usually pay for the engagement party. The next thing that the parents of the bride usually pay for is the wedding invitations. So the wedding invitations themselves. Now, a lot of people will have save the dates and other announcements that they want to have, like other wedding events that they have going on, like the bachelorette party, the wedding shower, the bridal shower, the Hindu party, things like that, that they may want to send an announcement for. This is all paid for by the bridal party, the bridesmaids' parents, okay? The main bride. What am I saying? The bridesmaids' parents. No, not the bridesmaids' parents. The bride's parents, okay? I hope I wasn't saying that in the beginning. The parents of the bride. We're just going to say the parents of the bride. All right. They usually are the ones that are paying for all the stationery. So any kind of announcements or invites that are going out, they are paying for it. Even for the engagement party, they would be the ones that are paying for that stationery. The next thing on our list is going to be services of the bridal consultation. So the services of the bridal consultation is broken down into the wedding planner, the day of coordinator, these two key players, and they will probably have a team. These are going to be your service bridal consultation people. Okay. These are people that you're consulting with. If you decide to have a wedding planner, the people that are paying for this is usually the parents of the bride. That's who's paying for that wedding planner. And no, they are not inexpensive. We did do a whole video on that. They are not inexpensive. The wedding gown and the accessories. So the bride's wedding gown, some people are wearing dresses these days instead of a gown. And then all of her accessories. So her earrings, it's going to also be like any of her undergarments, her shoes, her little purse, things that she is going to be having on the day of the wedding. This is usually paid for by the parents of the bride. Okay. So just know that. Then we have the flowers for the ceremony and the reception. So when you get to the venue, you're usually going to see a lot of flowers everywhere. You don't have to go with flowers. You can decorate with other things besides flowers. And we are going to discuss this a little bit more to give you some ideas, because you may not know that like flowers are not your only option for decorating. Okay. You may not know this. So yeah, we are going to talk about that. But these decor pieces, especially the flowers, are usually paid for by the parents of the bride. Okay. And once again, no, they're not inexpensive. They are not inexpensive. Flowers are very, very expensive. And they are another one of those things that went up in the year of 2020. We're now way years after that, and things are still expensive and still going up, which is quite sad. But the cost of flowers are not inexpensive. So they are the ones that are also paying for that. The bouquets for the bridesmaids specifically, the bouquets for the bridesmaids is paid for by the parents of the bride. I opted to go with with roses for each of my bridesmaids, and then they each had like a little bit of like leaves on them, like the big green leaves, and a little bit of the baby's breath. So you don't have to do an entire bouquet if you don't want to for each of your bridesmaids. Okay, there are other options. You just need to look at this. You just need to look around. Some people have the little wristlet corsages, things that you would see like at like when you're in high school and you have the corsage. I'm thinking of it, homecoming, the homecoming party, the homecoming, the big event. And so football game and stuff, you will see people wearing those at the homecoming. You could also do that for your bridesmaids to wear down the aisle. Okay. And that's totally fine. And then you may want to give them like a certain walk to have, because usually they're used to holding that bouquet, right, to come down the aisle. So you may want to play around with how do you want them to walk down the aisle if they only have a wrist corsage. But this is not about the bouquets right now. Okay, let's keep going. The music is usually paid for by the parents of the bride. So whatever music you decide to go with, whether it be a DJ, whether it be a band, whether it be a harpist, whatever it is, this is, the parents of the bride are paying for this traditionally. All of the media is usually paid for by the parents of the bride. Photography, videography, and content creation. So the photographer, videographer, and content creator, all three pieces of your media team are paid for by the parents of the bride. The next part is going to be the ceremony and reception. Thankfully, we have already discussed this one. You guys know that every episode, as we are planning this wedding and we are talking about each wedding item, I say, hey, welcome to the budget binder segment. And then we talk about who's paying for this. And then we will, drop in there the name of the person or people that will be paying for that specific item or items that we are discussing in that episode. So I'm really helping you guys out as we go along. But today I just wanted to kind of give you like an overview on who's paying for it, parents edition. So yeah, we already talked about the ceremony and the reception in another video and other videos, that yes, that is paid for traditionally by the bride's parents. Now we have the bridal party transportation to the venue on the day of the wedding. So to the venue on the day of the wedding, to the ceremony, to the reception. If you're just having a courthouse wedding, that's fine too. If you're at the church, that's fine too. Anywhere where you're going to be having the actual wedding day, wherever you're going, most of the time people are going to need a ride because they don't live wherever it's going to be, or they're not in close vicinity to where it's going to be. So that transportation is usually paid for by the parents of the bride. And I don't think a lot of people realize that, and they're always like scrounging to figure out like, well, how are we going to get money to pay for this? Where does it all come from? If you plan in advance, it'll be easier. Okay, it'll be much easier on everybody. Now, the last thing that the parents of the bride pays for before we move on to parents of the groom is their wedding attire. So they will have their wedding attire that they're going to wear. I mean, this is pretty obvious. They've got to wear something nice. Hopefully that goes with your theme and your colors. And so they will be paying for their own wedding attire, whatever they're going to be wearing the day of the wedding. Okay, the day of the wedding. Now, we're moving on to the groom's family pays for this. When it comes to who's paying for this section, this is going to be paid for by the groom's parents, the parents of the groom. They sometimes will pay for the engagement party. So traditionally, it is the parents of the bride, but it also traditionally can be the parents of the groom. So they could actually plan the party together. Back in the days, families lived close enough to each other that they could like walk to each other's homes or take a horse over to their home. And so they may have gotten together to just say, hey, let's plan this together. We're just going to throw one big party, and, either your home or our home, or we're going to do something down at like the theater spot, and they'll just, pick an area. Basically, it was just one area where they would put plays on and stuff, and they may have thrown like a party in there or thrown an engagement party at the little church house. So there you go for that. Now, the other thing is the rehearsal dinner. The rehearsal dinner is usually paid for by the parents of the groom. When things start getting super tricksy about all of this, you guys, is when things start being paid for by other people that traditionally wasn't. So then you'll get to some things like the rehearsal dinner and be like, well, oh my gosh, well, who was supposed to pay for that? And it's like, well, we can't ask the groom's parents because they're the ones that ended up having to pay for the ceremony because of circumstances. And so you see how things kind of get all wackadoodle when things don't kind of like fall into play. I know that not everybody is going to fall into all of this, and that's why I'm saying traditionally. The parents of the groom is also going to be paying for their own wedding attire. So that's a given. But as you can see, their list is quite smaller than the parents of the bride. And for anyone who hasn't been here, I will give you just a little overview as to why I believe that that is true. So traditionally, the groom is the one who is preparing a home for his bride, just the way Jesus has gone on when he died on the cross, sent Holy Spirit to be our comforter, left us to go prepare a home for us, which is many mansions up in heaven with God. And so it's such a beautiful picture to see. You can see that we have Father, Son, and then he went to go prepare a home for his bride, which is Christians, which is us. Oh my gosh, it's so beautiful. And so what's happened is people have gotten things completely out of order. They don't realize what's going on. They don't know who's paying for what. And so that's what ends up happening is that sadly, people don't realize that that's why the groom isn't paying for so much when it comes to the wedding. Like the groom's parents aren't overhauling these things because when it comes to the pay, because they're the groom side is trying to him and his parents are trying to get that house together and trying to get things prepared for him and his bride to come home to after the honeymoon. Okay. Well, back in the day, the honeymoon was like sometimes having to be in the parents' quarters. They didn't really go away for the honeymoon, and the house was still sometimes still being built. And then they got to move into their home after the honeymoon phase, and it sometimes had to last a little bit, longer where they were in that house with the parents before they got to move on to their own house. Okay. So just know that I know that we're getting into times where people don't know how they're going to buy a house and how they're going to pay for a wedding. And now you just heard traditionally how those things normally come about and how we've gotten so far away from the tradition and how things were usually done. This is not a bad tradition. This goes all the way back to literally God and Jesus. Wow, what a concept. What a concept. Nothing is new under the sun. Nothing. So I like getting to break this down, you guys. In our next episode, we are actually going to be doing the bride's edition of this, of who's paying for this, and then breaking down what the bride is going to be paying for and where she found that money to be able to pay for it. Those of you that are not new, you already know where she got the money to pay for it, but we are going to be breaking down what she'll be paying for when it comes to the specific wedding items. I hope y'all have enjoyed this episode. I know that it was a short, sweet, and to the point episode, but a lot of people don't understand the whys as to these things are. They just think, okay, let me go look up something on the internet and see who pays for this. And they don't really know why certain things are being paid for by who, like I said, and the why. Okay. So that's why I wanted to take the time to do this edition of who's paying for this so that you would have an understanding. We are now at the Be My Guest segment. So if you would like to be my guest here on your wedding series podcast, I would love to have you. Whether you just want to share your love story, your wedding story, your engagement era, all the wedding events, all the ups and downs, the things that went really, really well that you would love to share with other brides, and the things that were super complicated that you want to kind to be very transparent about, that it's not all, sunshine and roses when it comes to planning a wedding. It can be very chaotic. It can be very stressful. But that's why we're doing this, to handle and manage all of that negativity, right? And turn it into positive, because what does our God say? He says, I work all things for good for those that are love me, that are called according to my purpose. Yes, and amen to that. Okay. Yes, and amen to that. So we know that even though things can be like super crazy and chaotic, that he's working all things good for us. Okay. He is really, really helping us out in this time. And so that's why I say, like, if you want to be on this segment and you want to share your story, how wedding planning went or how things are going for you now, you don't have to be a bride or groom to be on the series. You can be a parent, a grandparent, a wedding guest, a friend, a bridal party member, anybody who wants to come on here and share their story. We would love to hear it. And how you get to do that is just by sending me an email so we can get the conversation going, because I would be interviewing you. Then we're going to do a video call together. I'm going to record the video call, and then I'm going to put it here on the podcast for other people to get to listen to or to get to watch, depending on how they like to listen to or watch podcasts. Because you kind of get a choice here with mine. You get to see me here, and then you also, if you want, you can just listen and not have to watch me on the camera. So you guys know how podcasts go. I will see you lovebirds in the next episode. And I can't wait because the bride's edition is going to be very good. I don't think people realize that these are just the things that she pays for and not so much of the other things that have been put on so many people's plate. But remember, this is traditionally, this is not for everybody. And I will see you lovebirds in the next episode. Bye, lovebirds. Bye.